I just love that perspective from eyes in to eyes out. Like, how does that change the way leaders should approach brand strategy today? If you could talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Traditionally we talked a little bit earlier just now in our conversation about messaging outward and, trying to create awareness and recognition through our own messaging or our own advertising or campaigns that talked about the products and services that we make. Eyes in is really very product centric. It's sort of the here's what we make idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Generally highlights features and products, internal processes, what we're putting out there for you, Mr. Consumer, Mr. and Mrs. Consumer, to transact with. Nothing wrong with that. And it had a great run.
Mm-hmm.
In today's world, though, we'd be better suited to think about eyes out. And eyes out marketing is really all about being customer centric. It's the idea that not only do we make something with great features and, differentiated product and a way to get it to you and get it to you fast through Amazon, but it's sort of here's how we help you. It emphasizes outcomes and roles. Most importantly, it emphasizes the why it matters in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And we are finding ourselves a community of people in this country.
Welcome back
to another episode of the Innovate on Purpose podcast, hosted by Matt Muller,
best-selling author of The Mindful Innovator and Rethink Retail's top retail expert.
We help retail leaders find clarity so they can grow their businesses purposefully.
We will uncover mindful tips, innovative solutions, and purposeful leadership advice and strategies that you can apply immediately to your retail innovation.
Are you ready to innovate on purpose?
Hey, before we jump into the episode today, I just wanted to say thank you for hitting the play button. You being here fires me up, and I cannot wait to share with you the insights that are going to make a difference in your business. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and leave a review so I can reach as many retail leaders as possible. They too need to hear this. Okay, let's do it. Hello and welcome to another episode of Innovate on Purpose. Today with me, I have Ed Farley. He is partner at Newport LLC. He's a seasoned brand marketing strategist with 30 plus years of experience helping Fortune 100 companies, nonprofits, growth stage businesses scale and achieve measurable results. Known for connecting vision to execution, he has led global campaigns, enterprise rebrands, and high impact marketing initiatives across industries and markets worldwide. Today, we're going to be talking about how we can use Ed's knowledge and wisdom on how to influence internally in our retail and CPG businesses. It's one of the most important things. We always talk about our silos and how we have a hard time creating change. So today, we're going to talk about influencing that change and breaking through those silos. So Ed, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Hi, Matt. Great to be with you. Thanks for the invitation.
Of course. Yeah. Super excited to dive into this conversation. I had a chance to go onto your website, download the book and give that a read over the last couple of days. And holy cow, rich, full of insights. And today I wanted to really base our conversation on that because I know there's so much we could talk about on how to create that purpose-driven transformation in our organization through the insights that you're sharing in that book. But before we dive into it, please, Ed, just share a little bit about yourself and why leaders today should be listening.
Yeah, I think we're in a new age. We have, commonly thought of as in marketing, we think of, business to business marketing or business to consumer marketing. And today we've kind of all realized, and when I say today, I mean in the last few years, I think we've all realized that we're living in a consumer to business world. And in that world, I think we have to be very mindful of how we're building brands. So my 30 years of experience across 5 industries. Some of them are CPG. I've done service. I've done nonprofits and some government communications as well. But all of it's really, we're building brands as we go, right? We're building brands internally and transforming internally, but we're building brands with consumers, with users, with service users. every single day. And gone are the days when we're shouting at people and sending messages over the airwaves or talking with people, in live circumstances. Now we're in a position where we're all sharing our individual experiences with brands and creating, customers together, and brands are building themselves in the market, external to internal, just as surely as we are trying to position them in different ways. So when I think of transformational brand positioning, the name of the book that you referenced is Purpose-Driven Strategic Brand Positioning, Transforming Your Business in a Consumer-Led World. We're talking about that very thing. We're talking about building brands in the market with your users, with your consumers every day together, and making that transformation as sort of a one team.
Yeah, being consumer led is so important, and is something that I think we still try to push our agenda, our initiatives down to our customer. And that's not seeming to work anymore, right? Where it's like you need to think about, well, how is your consumer really experiencing your brand, and what do they want more so now than ever before?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that when you're thinking about sort of this consumer driven world, purpose driven brands in the world of marketing really are they're fundamentally different than the way we thought about brands in the past.
Hmm.
While traditional brands sort of focus on products and services and what they solve, purpose driven brands sort of organize themselves around a larger mission, which is something that actually transcends their offering.
Hmm.
It's how are they positioned to make the world a better place. Now that sounds very lofty, but at the end of the day, consumers today are interested in the community. They're interested in how brands support the community, how they are playing a part to make a better world. So we better start thinking about it.
Yeah, we definitely need to start thinking about it. And I know that's definitely the trend that I'm starting to see come through the consumer side of things. But before we dig too deep on the consumer side, I wanted to kind of back it up just a little bit. Since you've worked with Fortune 100 companies across industries, what have you learned about the power of internal influencers in driving the transformation from the inside?
Yeah, internal influencers, I guess that's just sort of a fancy way of saying employees in a business, right? People who are actually making, selling, and doing all the different disciplines that any business would have. They connect high level brand purpose to everyday behaviors. So what does that mean? If you are committed to transformational brand positioning in a market and you live the mission and the vision of your company, those are the types of companies that generally enable their employees to be able to sort of live the mission every day, right? They serve as sort of living proofs. When peers see colleagues internally and within the company embodying the purpose of the company, the purpose beyond profit, profit obviously being the number one goal, purpose being why we're out there, why we're compelled, and why we want to create relationships with consumers. That adoption, that sort of purpose-driven transformation idea it accelerates, right? When you've got everybody living the mission. And it flows horizontally just as surely as it's top down. So culture change happens faster when employees champion it. And that's what we're looking for. That's the idea that the bottom up reinforcement ensures that sort of purpose isn't just sort of a leadership statement. It's an organizational movement. And there are a couple of examples that I have in my past that have been, really good examples of ways in which that's occurred. One, certainly in CPG, in my years in the beer business with Anheuser-Busch. And then another one in the healthcare business with Humana, as we were redefining that brand in the marketplace to a brand sort of seen through the lens of a product called Medicare, to a brand seen through the lens of integrated care delivery, incorporating wellness and wellness behaviors in living well and making the right choices and sort of having that impact on the products that we created and how we sold them and how our language and messaging transformed the company. And really people inside of Humana, great example, began to live the wellness creed, right? We developed all sorts of wonderful ways in which we could demonstrate wellness internally. Petitions and, fun sort of cultural movements inside the company that helped us champion that idea and take it into our products and our messaging and out into the community.
I love that, Ed. It's like weaving it into the DNA, right? So whatever your purpose is on the consumer facing side of it, just turning it to the inside and now saying, okay, well, let's live by these values, let's live by this mission, and then starting to deploy tactics that actually start to really interweave this and really put it into that DNA. I think is really really a great approach, and Humana is a great example of that.
Yeah.
On
Yes, it was
in
a
your
great way to do it. Mhm.
Yeah. And in your book, you talk about this eyes in to eyes out shift in thinking. And that's something I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit because I just love that perspective from eyes in to eyes out. Like, how does that change the way leaders should approach brand strategy today? If you could talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Traditionally we we talked a little bit earlier just now in our conversation about messaging outward and, you know, trying to create awareness and recognition through our own messaging or our own advertising or campaigns that talked about the products and services that we make. Eyes in is really very product centric. It's sort of the here's what we make idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Generally highlights features and products, internal processes, what we're putting out there for you, Mr. Consumer, Mr. and Mrs. Consumer, to transact with. Nothing wrong with that. And it had a great run.
Mm-hmm.
In today's world, though, we'd be better suited to think about eyes out. And eyes out marketing is really all about being customer centric. It's the idea that not only do we make something with great features and, differentiated product and a way to get it to you and get it to you fast through Amazon, but it's sort of here's how we help you. It emphasizes outcomes and roles. Most importantly, it emphasizes the why it matters in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And we are finding ourselves a community of people in this country, certainly, where there's a large bubble of people that really care about that. They care about outcomes. They care about community. So as you are making great products and selling them at prices and creating transactions with people, think about making your actions and your behaviors and your messaging more about the why it matters. So a great brand is really the what we do, the how we do it, and the why it matters.
Mm-hmm.
The why it matters is where you should spend probably at least 50 to 60% of your time, because it's really the eyes out area of how we help you, the why it matters in your life, and the what you're here to deliver. And
Yeah.
it's a way to center your product and your messaging around a sort of an ethos.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the saying, well, we don't sell drills, we sell holes, right? It's just like, it's going to what that
That's a great
outcome
one.
is. But in fact, today I just saw a new brand that launched that made me think about this. And it was I think it's Happy Brands. I probably messed up the brand, but they have a new pasta, or this is their first pasta. It's a sports pasta. And I thought that was really interesting. So basically, it's a pasta that has added protein in it. So we've seen that in the aisle in the grocery stores that there's protein pastas now. The rest of the brands don't have this eyes in approach of saying, hey, we sell protein pasta. And I think this is the first pasta brand that I'm seeing this eyes out approach where it's like, well, actually, no, we help athletes perform better with this sports pasta. So it's a very unique take on it. And I'm thinking about from an eyes out perspective.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's pasta, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, it's pasta. But it's a pasta with a purpose, because all of a sudden you have relationships you're creating with a group of people interested in transforming their own bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're aligning brands with how people live and what they value. That's the essence of eyes out thinking. So next time you look at your brand, think about the outcomes. Think about the way in which you're making someone's life better or their communities better in order to capture this eyes out type of thinking. It's empathy. It requires empathy. It requires adaptability. It actually requires us all to reimagine our business model to enrich customers' lives.
Yeah.
In the case of the pasta, you may be talking about where we sell it. You may be talking about the merchandising that goes around it. You may be talking about the feedback that you ask for in social channels and how you measure success. So it's really about creating a community of people focused on the why it matters, as we talked about before.
Yeah, and I love the alliteration, pasta with purpose. I think they need to hire you just right there for that statement.
That's for sale.
All right, so let's get to the next question. We're kind of answering it already, but I wanted to dig a little bit deeper here with purpose. So it's a word that we hear quite often. Like I think it was probably something that was started to become more popular with Simon Sinek, talking about the why, starting with why and really focusing in on purpose. But it's more than a buzzword. In fact, this podcast is called Innovate on Purpose because we get to think about that purpose. So it has like these functional, emotional, like and societal dimensions. So like, how can executives truly connect like all of these layers to their own business strategy? How do they actually start to tactically interweave purpose into their work?
Well, you've got to break it down. And you've got to break it down. You mentioned functional, emotional, and societal dimensions of purpose. And that's really the way to look at it, right? It's almost like a three-pronged stool, right? You're functional. What are we solving? What are the real practical problems that customers face? We'll go back to the pasta. You talked about strength and resilience. There's a lot of creatine being sold now for that very purpose. There's a lot of athlete-related products, real problems that people face that are connected to everyday things that people eat, like pasta.
Mm-hmm.
You can think about that, that the Humana example I gave you was a great example of real practical problems that people face, in that two things are wrong in healthcare today. One being people don't take care of themselves very well, Americans, particularly we. And then second, it's very expensive. Healthcare is very expensive. So if you're framing the problem, you're framing it functionally. You're saying to yourself, well, what products can we offer at Humana to help people buy into wellness lifestyle? So we thought about that, and we started thinking about ways like Humana Vitality, which was a program of rewarding people for healthy behaviors in order to get people to take better care of themselves, earn points, and ultimately get rewards that not only manage to help them be better and be more well, if you will, but were also added value to their lives, like winning prizes and rewards and things like that. So there's a real practical, functional approach that you can take to thinking about designing products and even having value internally. Second is emotional, and that is really the area of shaping how customers feel and the identities that they form through the brand. So how are you connecting the brand or the product to the emotions that your customers need? Are they, does it make them excited to get involved with it? How are you developing kind of a guided kind of emotion to where they want to get to? So I'll give an example. Patagonia is a great example of that. I mean, functionally, they make durable outdoor products, right? That's really what they make. Emotionally, they're building a sense of belonging in an activist community. Many of the things that Patagonia does is, they're all about environmental activism. They create purpose. They're making a lot of contributions and donations. They're anchoring it in saving the business to save our home planet. That's very societal, but it's also got an emotional element to it.
Yeah.
So that's a great example. And then finally, societal is kind of what I just described. It's that broader positive impact on the community and the planet, right? Whether it's your body, in the case of the pasta, your wellness in your body, or a stronger community with more renewable, sustainable practices like what Patagonia is doing. So you're anchoring it in a certain amount of societal value or community value. Very important to the generations that are buying a lot of products right now, such as Gen Z and obviously Gen Alpha on the way. So if you can think about a brand and combine functional, emotional, and societal purpose together, you're well on your way to that sort of transformational, purpose-driven approach where you're not swerving from profit, but you're adding value. You're bringing more meaningful relationships and better experiences to your brand in the market.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I love the three-legged stool that you have, which is, the functional, emotional, and societal piece of it. Totally important. Patagonia is an amazing example. Like one of the things that I really liked about Patagonia was the resale aspect. I mean, it's a sustainability. They all talk about sustainability, but also, well, you can buy used Patagonia and trade it in for a new one, and then they resell the old one that's refurbished just to help with that circularity.
It's amazing. I mean, the most effective strategies, and they do it really well. Patagonia does it really well. They live at the intersection of all three of those things, right? It's
Yeah, they do.
functional, emotional, and societal. They create meaning that's simultaneously useful, and it's felt, and it's socially relevant.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of and they've been doing it since the beginning, man.
Yeah. Yeah. They knew what they were doing from the start, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Can you share like how your process, like when you're gathering these insights from your perspective, from the organization, from customers, competitors, and culture, like what's like an example that you can share with the audience on how this process has unlocked like transformation inside a company?
Yeah. I'll go back to, as long as we're talking about healthcare, I think that was the company that really opened my eyes to the power of transformational purpose-driven brand positioning. You know, a lot of people try to anchor brand decisions in the external world, and it may have, you know, they're testing it, they're proving it, they're looking at, that's very superficial. What you've got to do though is think about internal customers first. And we talked about that at the top of the cushion. So, for example, at Humana, we literally had to go back to every line of business in that company, sit down with leaders in those lines of business, and think about their value propositions across our product portfolio in a way that recentered the offering as purpose driven. In other words, we were able to say, well, it's insurance, but at the end of the day, it's helping people do, you know, get from point A to point B, whether it's commercial insurance for an employer or private insurance or insurance for our military service members in the government contract or any of a host of other products. Essentially, we broke down those value propositions and brought them back up into a framework that was purpose driven, but designed to ladder up to this idea of being your health partner for life. Okay. That's a very simple way of saying begin with your internal customers, your internal stakeholders.
Yeah.
Now, the most important thing that we found after we did all that and generated a very appealing, emotionally relevant, kind of resonant, if you will, purpose driven brand story, which was your health partner for life, we immediately launched that through HR. Now, why would we go to HR before the consumer or the customer? HR champions that like no other. I would encourage anybody to start with their internal communications, their HR department, because at the end of the day, they're building a culture and an ethos, and they're hiring for people that would buy into a mission like that.
Yeah.
And as you do that, you are streamlining your approach that ultimately you are then, it's much easier to build your external face when you're all aligned, you know, internally.
Yeah, I think that's
So that
brilliant.
was the way to do it.
Starting with HR is like a brilliant way to think about it. No matter if it's wellness or any other type of way that you're trying to drive purpose within the organization, like they have influence across all pillars of the company, right? So they're creating those programs that they're going to utilize. Like, why would you not start there? That makes total sense, and I don't think many are doing that. It's that's brilliant.
Yeah, and you know the same was the case in the beer business at Anheuser-Busch. It sounds funny to go from healthcare to beer.
What, beer's not healthy?
Oh well, maybe
no.
it is. I certainly hope so. You know, it's the same. It's the same way. It had there was a real purpose to that business insofar that we were making it a, you know, a healthy, well, sort of the good part of a good life, right? And we were going into communities and investing in communities and meeting the needs of, we talked a little bit about meeting the needs of customers in trouble, even when they were experiencing hurricanes or when they were experiencing natural type disasters. We went in with water. We wanted to be part of their life, right? We wanted to be part of their table setting just as surely as we were a part of the problems that they were experiencing in their communities. A real purpose at a place like Anheuser-Busch as well.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, and it's important for all companies to think about how do they really drive into the community? How do they really bring that purpose to life? Yeah. So I think when I get to like more like the practical piece of it now, because like thinking about like these internal leaders that are in these retail CPG companies, yeah, they're gonna go to HR with driving some purpose, great. But I mean, I think it has to start at like, you know, smaller tactical steps to really start to influence from the inside. So like what's one practical step that they can take tomorrow to start being that internal influencer who drives that purposeful transformation? Where do they start?
I'd say challenge yourself to begin conversations with your teams internally with, why do we exist beyond making money? Now that sounds counterintuitive because we're in business to make money. But if you're thinking about, it's really a yes plus, right?
Mhm.
We're all in the business to make money, but in order to create trusted, trustworthy, emotionally transformative experiences with your customers, particularly that younger audience, for those of us interested in that big bubble coming, the big Gen Z bubble, a Gen Alpha bubble, making those decisions with you and forming those brands in a C2B world, you've got to also add on, why do we exist beyond making money? What can we do? What can we say? How can we act? What is genuine and authentic and purposeful based upon the reason we're here? What do we do that exists beyond making money? And then begin to tie the daily choices that you make in marketing, operations, innovation, back to that larger North Star. Make sense? You are essentially challenging yourself to follow that mission-driven ethos, to act and react in a way that embraces the outward customer in such a way that you're building the brand with the customer, right? And that means if you're in retail or CPG, you're talking to the retailer as well. After you're having that internal alignment and then taking that out on your daily, conversations with retailers, your conversations with, in the case of 3-tier systems, your wholesalers or distributors or dealerships. You're doing that and you're challenging each of your departments to think about it that way. You model eyes out thinking in small decisions, showing how purpose translates outcomes for customers, right? So you're modeling that behavior. I mean, even one leader connecting purpose to practice can spark momentum as an internal influencer. So you start with your leaders, you begin to have those conversations, you take those conversations to your retailers, you take them to your dealers, you take them to your wholesalers, wherever you happen to be, and you begin to create that type of narrative about why you're there. Again, we'll go back to the great ones, right? Patagonia's, the outdoor companies, even REI does it really well. A lot of D2C brands are really strong in that area as well. Direct to consumer brands.
Yeah, yeah. I like how you're saying like it starts like within, right? It starts just with that internal dialogue and how are you adding to the brand? And that one question is such a great question to ask of why do we exist beyond making money? I think that's a question that I'm starting to just think about for myself, and just I love it. And going back to like thinking about Patagonia and why do they hit the nail on the head when they first started? I mean, and my hypothesis here might be is just a strong purpose in that internal person, that first person that started Patagonia. If they're driven for sustainability, driven for having those high end experiences in the outdoors, that's what the brand's going to live for. So it just started with that internal dialogue for the founder. My hypothesis.
No, I think you're right. And by the way, this is not a revolutionary concept. We might have framed it in transformational, purpose-driven marketing, but there's a video that wanders around, I'm sure everybody's seen it, of the great Steve Jobs saying, we're selling values. We're selling values. We're not selling products, we're selling values. And that type of thinking enabled the Apple product to grow in such a way that it championed the mastery of all of us, the customers, over the machine versus the machine over the audience, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he designed it purposefully to make it easier to open, to make it easier to interact, to make it easier to make choices, to create personalized experiences, all of those being freeing up your time, freeing up your headspace to enjoy the product.
Yeah.
And so he made that clear many years ago. And all this is history repeating itself with audiences and with social channels and with interactive experiences with this new generation and the other one behind it. We really need to zero in on it.
Yeah, it's the next transformation for sure. And Apple's a great example. Yeah, like the crazy ones. It was like probably one of the best ads that I've ever seen. And it's something I think about
Fantastic.
all the time. It fits just a purpose. It fits like just a persona. Yeah, it's all about values. And I don't think they talk about a computer once in that ad.
No, they didn't.
Right.
That was the whole idea, right?
Exactly. One last question for you today before we end. I really want to think about so we're talking about this purpose driven for transformation and being so critical. My question is, does that mean that like companies that aren't authentically purpose driven today are on the path to irrelevance? Like what's going to happen to those brands that aren't purpose driven?
I think that you've got brands that lack authentic purpose sort of risk irrelevance in today's transparent sort of consumer-led world. What do I mean by that? Usually there's a reason why every company was founded. Somebody got a great idea that he could make or sell something, he or she could make or sell something that was of value. Nobody's doomed. I think that if people can sit back and sort of reevaluate themselves and their original purpose for coming into business in the first place, research cites that purpose-driven companies grow faster, they retain their talent, and they weather disruption much more effectively. And so if you can consciously go back to do the thing that we were talking about earlier, which is sit down and ask yourself, are we really focused on eyes out thinking? Are we really thinking purposefully? Are we thinking about what we do, how we do it, and why it matters beyond necessarily making money? You will find yourself in a place where you're making decisions that are eyes out. Legacy status or market share, won't guarantee survival. Obviously, it never has, right? But authenticity and sort of alignment with consumer values, the values we talked about with Apple earlier is a good example of that. But those are the new differentiators. Okay? So all of us should do that. It's a bit of an introspection that can happen internally. You can do that with a process. We can do that with you at Newport. We understand we've got seasoned leaders, including myself, who've spent decades working with medium-sized companies, larger companies, even Fortune 100 companies, to reimagine purpose and to reimagine growth in today's, with today's stakes very high. So, I'll give you an example. Tesla's vision, we all talk about Tesla and there's good and bad about Tesla, right? We talk about it. But the whole idea behind Tesla was to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. That was their sort of vision. That's an ambitious purpose, but it can become a growth driver and a rallying point for customers, employees, and investors. And that's really how it took off. Right? This idea of becoming something that can help the world transition to sustainable energy. At its core, that's what it was really about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, making money, but yes, to what end? And the to what end part is the emotional eyes out thinking that allows you to really get that traction. Because what are we all in the business for, right? Loyalty. We're looking to create loyal, delighted customers that come back more than once, more than twice, retention.
Yeah.
And so that's really so to answer your question, no, brands are not doomed if they don't embrace it now, but they should start thinking about it in new ways and challenge themselves to eyes out thinking.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they're doomed. They need to get back to purpose. I think you made a great point. Like every company has started with that purpose. And if it's not there anymore and it is just about the money, I think it definitely is time to start thinking about that. Why did you come to exist in the first place beyond the money? Because it's there. It's just a matter of resurfacing it. And Ed, I'm sure that you and the team at Newport absolutely can help them find their way there back to that purpose. They need you.
Well, we can. So, feel free to call us up. We're at newportllc.com, and we have upwards of 40 ex-C-suite leadership individuals that range in multiple functions. We help people grow. We help people set themselves up for exit and sale over time, if that's what they so choose. We get them ready to do that. We understand how to accelerate growth and help you realize your best sale if that's what you need. But we can go both ends, and we're very, very excited to meet with you if you'd like to do so.
Well, Ed, thank you so much for being on the show today. The insights are just so powerful and are going to help so many. So thank you. In the show notes, there will be links to get in touch with Ed, to download the book. I definitely think you all should reach out. So thanks so much, Ed, for joining the show today.
Thanks, Matt. It's been a pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. We have made it to the end of another episode. Thank you for tuning in. A couple of things before you go. If you have found value in this episode, I am sure you'll find value in what we have coming up. So please subscribe so you will have access and know when we launch the next episode. Also, leave a review. The more reviews we have, the further our reach becomes, and I truly want this to be heard by as many leaders as possible. Don't hog this all for yourself. I would love to hear your insights on this topic, so meet me on social media at Matt Muller Innovation on LinkedIn and Instagram. And lastly, if you want to learn more about my story and what I can do for you and your company, go to themindfulinnovator.com. I would love to help you innovate on purpose. Until next time, just remember, bring a level of awareness to each conversation, each observation, each moment, and you can create great change in this world. Thank you.